Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the PHNX Rising Show, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's numero uno sportsbook app. Yeah, I switched it up there for you, Owen. You don't even know what's going to happen today. But yeah, we
it's
have
crazy. We're losing our mind already.
It's going to be a great show for y'all today. Of course, as always, I'm Don. I was going to say Don Ramon. That's my username. I'm Ramon Chavez, and I got my my good buddy here, Owen Evans. How you doing, sir?
Getting ready for a fun trip to the coast.
Hey, OC is always fun, if you know where to go. But we'll see what happens on Friday. We're gonna have a great show for y'all today. Of course, we're gonna talk about what's gonna happen tomorrow. We get a Friday game, Owen. We get a free weekend. Have you had one of those?
We do get a Friday one, and then we got a weekend off after it as well.
That's
so true. It's a interesting one, but of course, this could go really going into that break on a sour note if they can't get a result.
No,
tomorrow.
I don't want that. 2 weeks until the next game. No, I can't do that. No. So we got to get a W tomorrow. So we'll talk about tomorrow's game against Orange County. Fill you in on some more team updates from Owen, see if he has any more information. We're going to take a look around the USL. There were some games yesterday, some pretty fun games yesterday. And then, of course, we got some other games this weekend. And then we're going to give you an update on what's going on with #SoccerWars. We got some updates from the council meeting. I believe one of the owners or the general manager was on Football Americas yesterday after the MLS All-Star game. He had some thoughts as well, so we'll talk about that for sure. All right, Owen, let's talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. Rising will be flying out to Orange County. Orange County's been in the news the entire week, I feel, just because of the situation that's been going on between them and LA Galaxy. But guess what? They still have a game to play, and it's against Phoenix Rising. So do you feel like this? Do you think, first of all, the players care at all about what's going on? And second of all, is it going to affect them come Friday?
I feel as though, look, as much as people will like to say you can kind of put it to one side, ignore what's going on, pretend like it doesn't really matter. That's just not true, right? People they're aware, they can they feed off the energy. You can't say, for example, that players really feed off of a positive home crowd or whatever and say that they don't feed off of the kind of anxiousness that surrounds this kind of a situation whereby a lot of Orange County fans are pretty sure by now that the city probably want them out, or at least there are elements working within the city that they feel want them out. And now, yeah, it's just a weird one, isn't it? And it can kind of go one of two ways. Either that's kind of weighing on the mind and you're thinking about, okay, from here, there's some real problems. What happens next season? What happens with all of that? Or it's motivational factor. It's, look, they're a team that are the defending champions and yet are glued to the bottom of the table. I just feel as though it can really go one of two ways, and it's hard to tell quite which way it's going to go. Obviously, last weekend, it was a 3-3 draw against Colorado Springs. They'd have liked a better result there, but there's a lot of goals, put it that way, for entertaining. And, of course, ultimately, they were denied the 3 points by 2 late goals, one of which was a penalty in stoppage time. So they got to feel like, they were able to take Colorado Springs up to the very end and almost walked out of there with 3 points. For a team that's bottom of the league, they've got to feel as though, you got to take some positive out of that and feel as though, okay, we can turn that into positive momentum for the next week. But we'll see, won't we?
Yeah, off the field, it's been a crazy week. And, if I'm the players, I think this is a little bit of motivation, like you're saying, like the city kind of basically said, hey, we really don't care if you're here or not. And you literally just won the championship. So if you're in that front office or one of those players, you want to show them up. And now if I'm the fans, I want to show up and support the team, make sure that there's a statement out there with the amount of fans and kind of let them know that there is support for Orange County continuing at that stadium. Now, when it comes to on the field, we know about Orange County. We just saw them a few weeks ago. We know how dangerous they are, especially their striker, Ilowski, who's the league leader right now, 16 goals scored. But we, on the other side, exactly you just said, they just give up goals, and that's why they're bottom of the table at this time. But I feel like right now, just because I know there's less games, they don't have that many games left. I mean, I feel like they're just going to come out and say, you know what, screw it. We're just going to give it our all, see what happens. And that's dangerous team to face, I feel, for Rising, and so they're gonna have to watch out tomorrow against that team.
Well, if they come out with that urgency, absolutely. Especially because, we look at some of the conversations we've had and with Rick where it was, okay, look, we're getting the clean sheets. That's important. The rest will come. But we're not at that point in the season right now whereby you can kind of say, solidify one thing, the rest will come. There is no wait and see. There is no, and that urgency just feels like it's a little bit lacking. Look, I know the rest of the league hasn't pulled away. We're not in a position where you have to completely panic that you have to, every single game is a must win, otherwise you're out. But we're also not looking at a position right now for Phoenix Rising where they can just say, oh, stuff will work itself out, because you don't have time for things to work themselves out, especially as you look at some of these games that are coming up against teams. Quite a few of them were away from home. There's about 6 away games, I believe, over 9 weeks for Rising. So that's going to take probably quite a bit out of those boys. But a fair few of those games are against teams that Rising are going to be competing with come the end of the season for those last few playoff spots. And that's where the concern is, because now we're getting towards a point whereby, look, draws aren't really good enough, even against those teams that are around you, because you need to be gaining on other teams.
Yeah.
You mentioned, we can talk a bit about Orange County now. You mentioned Oloski there, of course, referencing Milan Oloski. We do have to kind of clarify that, because we've also got Brian Oloski also on the team. Milan Oloski actually named Player of the Month today. That came out. Ben Lundt finished in 3rd.
Robbed
on that for the last month. Robbed, could argue. But Milan Oloski was not available last week. Rick did mention that in midweek, and we'll hear from him in a second. But they've kind of had some issues in their squad with sickness. Brian did play, but Milan Oloski did not play in their game against Colorado Springs last week. But if we're going to talk about on the field, should we toss it over to that Rick clip then? And so here's what Rick had to say when we asked him in midweek about kind of what they'd learned from the last game against Orange County, what they're doing differently.
For that game, we were really, really lackluster in our offense. That's when started the whole focus on the defending, is that we were dominating a game and then they could easily get out of any sort of a counter press, and they were finding Torres or Ilaski and kind of killing us. I know they've had a lot of COVID issues. I think COVID, I'm not sure what the reason is. They had a lot of guys out the last game, but maybe they're back, maybe they're not. We just have to concentrate on ourselves. We have to be focused and determined and motivated. And, I think that the guys understand how close they are. That's been a topic over the last few days is, no one's really running away. So even at the top, it's really competitive. So again, we're not eliminated, and we know we have an opportunity. And while this game looks easy in standings, Orange County's difficult and it's at their place. So we're going to have to be exceptional.
Yeah, I agree with the words that he's saying. I feel like the defense has vastly improved since that game. I'm sad that it took so long, and playing against Orange County of all teams, to kind of realize, hey, we need to fix our defense. But since then, they've been outstanding defensively. Ben Lundt, a bunch of shutouts. The team, I believe, 455 minutes without a goal, giving up a goal. So
getting pretty close.
Yeah, so they've vastly improved, and I believe on the statement that Rising, or the preview that they put out on their website, Rising said that if they keep the shutout past the 47th minute, I think it's going to break a club record. So it's outstanding, and we love it. But now the offense has to catch up to that, and we've seen a bunch of 0-0s, which means the defense doing their job. It's just the offense that needs to bring it home after that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Indeed, we will. And look, again, just to kind of underline my point again, Rising has 11 games, including tomorrow, left in the season. It isn't time for wait and see. It's time to do. Because if you don't start doing soon, you're going to find that it's going to start slipping away. You look at the kind of teams that are around right now. Monterey Bay is starting to catch up. They're on 26 points, 3 points behind Rising with a game in hand. Given where they were earlier this season, that's quite a turnaround. They're on quite a bit of momentum right now. You do not want to be in a position whereby you're letting them catch you up. Because if they keep riding that momentum they're on at the moment, that's a real concern. You look at some of the others. Oakland Roots now have had 2 weeks off. They're coming back this weekend, obviously. They're not far behind either. There's just lots of teams in that area that I mean, RGV are 3 points behind as well. There's so many teams in such a small space.
Yeah.
That yes, it's good because this isn't the East, and in the Eastern Conference, you've seen that gulf kind of start to build between the playoff teams and the non-playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's you've just got to be careful. You've got to be really, really careful here about where you go. I mean, Harry here making the point they've got the same max points available. That's correct. They do also have to meet, and they have to meet in Monterrey.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's not going to be the same team they faced at the beginning of the season.
It's not. Fair. This is not the same team that they faced in that first 45 minutes of play. Mm-hmm. And let's be clear here. It was 45 good minutes of play in a very weird second half. Mm-hmm. Remember back when we were all innocent and kind of, who cares? They put in a fantastic first half. Everyone positive, everyone great. And now we're sitting
eye bags are coming in since then. Yeah, yes, I remember. But yeah, no, to your point, Owen, looking at the standings here, we have Sacramento in 5th place. They have 37 points. Okay. So there's a little bit of gap between them and the 6th place, which is El Paso, which Rising will play in a couple of weeks as well. So these are teams exactly you're saying they're going to face. And if you beat this team, these teams that are ahead of you, you can sneak back into the playoff, into the playoffs, basically. So it's important for them to continue to not lose points, but you also need to gain points. You need to get these victories. That draws are not going to cut it anymore, especially since you're playing against these teams that are literally next to you. So the difference between 6th place and 10th is only 4 points. That's how loaded the West is right now, how well everybody's playing, how well or how many breaks, let's say, Phoenix has actually caught because these teams either are losing or, it just Rising hasn't have the opportunity right now. They still control their destiny. And if they don't make it, it's their own fault. It's nothing that, they anybody else did to them.
Just to speak to Harry's comment here about El Paso in trouble, max points of 60. I will say, look, max points is great to an extent, but don't rely on it too much when you're looking at teams scraping into the playoffs. Because you have to bear in mind, this isn't teams at the top of the league. No one near the bottom is getting their max points. Not only that, but if you look at it now, Phoenix Rising have a max points of 62, El Paso have a max points of 60. That can flip in terms of Rising being below them simply by playing them. And that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We should also take a quick look at one other thing I'll mention with some of these teams around Rising right now. So Vegas are in 6th. They are 4 points ahead of Phoenix Rising. They have the tiebreaker over Phoenix Rising. Okay, head-to-head is the first tiebreaker. We know they have that. El Paso are in 7th, 4 points ahead of Phoenix Rising. They also, at present, hold it, but of course they meet again. But anything other than a win for Rising and a win by multiple goals, it leaves it a bit sketchy as to whether El Paso may have that tiebreaker. Galaxy 2 are 2 points ahead of Phoenix Rising. They have the tiebreaker over Phoenix Rising because they won by more goals over the course of those 2 games they played each other. Oakland Roots at the moment, that's level because they drew. They're only meeting so far. And they're on the same points as Rising. RGV, the first tiebreak again, is head-to-head. They haven't yet met. Monterey Bay, 3 points behind Rising. Rising holds the tiebreak over them at present because, again, they won that opening game. Then Orange County at the very bottom, 6 points back, where the first tiebreak is level because they drew in their only meeting. But, again, those things can change. There's too many teams in that kind of area of the table which have the tiebreaker over Phoenix Rising. That's a concern. That should be a concern because come the end of the season, again, forget your goal difference, forget any of that. It's all about that first tiebreak of head-to-head if you finish level on points. And maybe that's where some of the problem is. Rising have gotten results. You look at some of the results they've gotten. They beat Colorado Springs. They beat San Antonio twice. Big wins are important, of course, for confidence, but the wins that matter, if you had to pick them, are against the teams in the same part of the table as you, because those are the things that come the end of the year. If you're level on points, that's what matters. San Antonio win is great for 3 points. Doesn't mean anything for a tiebreaker. Not going to come into question at all. Same with Colorado Springs. There's not many teams they do hold the tiebreaker of head-to-head over. Which is
Yeah.
actually worrying looking at this table.
Yeah, exactly. So and I see in the chat, it's like, well, every game is a must win. Yeah, exactly. Because of this situation that they find themselves in. So again, it's not enough to get a tie and just go out there. No, you need to get these W's. You need to climb up the standings, because otherwise, when it comes to head to head and all that other stuff, it's not looking good for Rising. So definitely need that W.
And we need to we've been saying it must wins for months now, it feels like.
Yeah.
But part of that, no, I know. And it's funny because you look at it and go, well, they're still in with a chance. They are. But the reason they were must wins is because I feel like our expectations have been dropping time and time again. It started off with these are games that must be won. If Rising is going to, at the end of the season, be competing in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became just to get a first round playoff game, pretty much.
Yep.
Now it's scraping into the first round home playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's scraping into the playoffs.
And we had that conversation. It's like, we don't think that Rising is going above 6th place at all. Like,
no.
That's what's best case scenario. Everything goes according to plan. 5th, but you're not getting a home playoff game. So at this point, it's like now you're looking like exactly like it's like kind of like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to playoffs with Rising.
Yeah, congrats. We want to finish mid-table at best.
Yeah.
Like, that's not particularly inspiring, is it? And that's the thing. It's something that I find weird sometimes looking at these leagues, and obviously people who grew up with playoffs as the thing, obviously will look at this differently. But to me, finishing in mid-table isn't an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't good. You just weren't atrocious.
And that's that was a conversation that was had at the beginning of the season. It's like, hey, this team under Rick Schantz, hey, they did great. They were the best team on the table, but when it comes to the playoffs, we still had a great season. What about now? If you scrape by into the playoffs and you still not do great, what does that say? And so I don't think that conversation can apply in this situation, because like you're saying, when it comes to the playoffs, I feel like that kind of, we see that with Orange County, where they were able to get into the playoffs. They ended up with the championship, but then look what happened the following year. They're now at the bottom of the West. So yeah, I understand, like, if you do get into the playoffs and do well, but at the end of the day, you didn't do well over the course of the regular season.
And people will be straight here and say, look, Orange County, they won it. They're not very good. They weren't very good last year, so you don't have to be great. They played every game up until the final at home. Do not underestimate the importance of getting at least some degree of home field advantage in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You cannot expect reasonably to finish in seventh, travel away every single game that you're going to lift a trophy. It's just very, very unlikely.
It's tough. Yeah. No, that's not, that's what I mean. It's not a good scenario unless there's, some major upsets in the first, second round. You're probably not going to see a home game at all. So,
and this isn't some like nonsensical go play 7 games in a row against the team and pretend you're not bored of them by the end.
Wow,
this is
straight
really
up. Feel.
I know, yeah. This is straight up like you go away. You've got 90 minutes to get it done away from home, multiple times against different teams, knowing that you lose a single game on the road and you're done. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Owen, let's take a look at what on the Rising side, what's going to happen. So we had the controversy with Santi Moar last Saturday of him leaving the game, heading straight to the locker instead of coming back to the bench. What do you expect to happen with him? Based on what you're hearing, based on your own sense, I honestly don't expect him to start, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's dropped at least for this game.
I'm unsure if he'll start or not. I do expect him to travel. Okay. I expect him to be there and be available. But whether he started or not, who really knows? I mean, the problem is that I see what you're saying, but what are the real alternatives right now? David Rodriguez isn't going to be available, likely, because of the problems that he's had with his international clearance. You just in that kind of position then when you say, okay, who else do you play out there? Because the risk you've got is you say, okay, we're going to play Calistri on the wing, but then you're running the risk of kind of disrupting that defense that's really solidified in recent weeks. alternatively, you say, okay, we'll put Arturo on the wing, but is he ready to go 90 at the moment? And not only that, but is that getting the best out of him? Doesn't seem ideal. Then you've got, I mean, what's the other options? Lamin Jaune?
Hurst?
Against, I mean, you could play Hurst on the wing, but it's an option. It is an option. I'll give you that one. I feel as though you could go with that, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Michael says here,
really
I remember that Rick said that he wouldn't punish the team. So I could see it maybe starting on the bench, but I feel like as a coach, you kind of have to send a message. You kind of have to say, hey, look, you can't be acting like that, and I'm sure they had whatever conversation they had over the weekend, but I feel like when you're a coach, if I'm the rest of the players, I'm like, hey, that wasn't cool either. But at this point, does it really matter? But if I'm the coach, you kind of do have to send a message and say, hey, at least for the first 45, you're not starting. And then, whatever happens. But I don't know. It's a weird situation.
It's a weird situation because it comes amongst such a backdrop of kind of just, it feels like discontent bubbling in general. Again, we've spoken about this for weeks now, that there are just things aren't quite right in that locker room. And so what could have been an obvious kind of, okay, just you've got to punish him. It's all very simple. Everyone will accept it. It just happens. But I don't know right now. It's hard to tell. There's so much that we hear coming out of stuff that's going wrong, or just, I don't know. For all the talk of positivity, I'm not sure that everyone's quite bought into that. I don't believe they have, to be perfectly frank. And I just feel as though what we've got ourselves into as a position right now, what they've got themselves into is just, it's hard to predict even what individual kind of decisions are going to have a bigger impact of. I don't know. Stuff's on very shaky ground right now. And it's, look, to the question there about how many other players are fighting back in the locker, I'm not sure the players are fighting each other. I feel as though there are some who aren't happy with the direction that things are going overall right now. They disagree on that. I'm not sure the players themselves are fighting amongst each other, really. Yeah. I don't know. It's just messy. Everything is messy right now.
Yeah, and then Santi's behavior on Saturday was the last thing this team needed. And I'm sure he apologized to them. I'm sure he did that as well. But it's a tough situation. It's a delicate situation, and when you do that, especially in the way Rising have been playing this year, it just doesn't look good on either side. Whether you're the coach or the player, it's just no one's going to end up winning this. So the best recipe for this, I think, is for it not to happen in the first place. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as the lineup, I'm pretty sure, besides the Santi question, everything's probably going to stay the same. What do you think?
I really don't know. We'll find out when the lineups come out tomorrow, won't we?
I mean, Babu didn't have the best of games last time. I know King and Babu are still working on that chemistry on the left side. So I would want to see Babu back on there just to kind of give him another shot. But I'm interested as well in the midfield question. He starts Seijas. Is Arturo ready to go? That'd be interesting. And what do you do with Hurst? He had a great start to the season, and I feel he kind of he's been lost in the shuffle, and he's not. I don't know if he's truly a winger either. Like it's like
no, he's not.
Questions. Yeah,
he's just not the guy that Rising in the system that they currently play what works. He just doesn't work in that system. It's bizarre, but hey, there we go. He was signed, and then that's the bit that gets me, is that we'll have these conversations. I know we've been over this so many times. We'll have the conversation. It's like, what position is Greg Hurst? And then you ask Rick that question, and he kind of gives you this like, well, he's not really a winger. He's not really a number 9. He's more of a second striker. And it's like, well, you don't play with a second striker.
That, yeah.
So why do you bring him in? Like,
yeah, he's not.
Hey,
he's fast enough to be a winger, not tricky enough to be a winger either. But we've seen what he can do when he's up top as well. So it kind of just makes you question, like, what are you like what do we do? Obviously he needs to be on the field, but that means that you're taking out other people as well. So that's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah. I will say though that overall, where it's really a problem is that unless you're looking at trying to play him in either a wing kind of role or as a number 10, the late sub for striker, I totally understand why that's become Richie.
Mhm.
I feel as though he's a player that you see he comes on, he can be dangerous in his 10-minute spurt at the end of a game. So again, I completely understand that. I don't feel as though Hurst can truly become that backup striker
Mhm.
because Richie has really kind of pigeonholed himself into a very specific role on this team that he is very capable of doing. And we've seen him have some success in that role. So,
Mhm.
and even when he hasn't had success, he's come close.
Yeah.
He definitely threatens a defense at the end of a game. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It's I have no idea. Right now, the team sheet, I don't know because we're looking at such a kind of difference from what we expected in some ways at the start of the season.
Mhm.
We didn't have Babu down as a winger. We weren't expecting to see him play for Rising as a winger. Santi has struggled at times this season. Well,
Mhm.
for a lot of the season, the goal scoring isn't there. We've said that. The midfield has obviously got a lot of question marks around it at the moment. Defensively, now they finally seem solid. The problem is if you want to make changes elsewhere, does that impact on the defense? So
Yeah.
I don't know. All I'll say is I expect Ben Lundt to start.
Well, we
I
know
mean,
that's
that's
fair.
it's a nice solid prediction right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of predictions, let's go with our score predictions. I think Rising
Here we
walk
go.
away with this 2-1. I'm saying 2-1.
No.
I'm gonna run with it. I feel Rising get over there and get that W.
I'd like to give a shout out to our referee tomorrow, Sergei Demianchuk, who has only been to the Great Park once.
Mm.
And on that occasion, the game finished a 0-0 draw. So I am going with a 0-0 draw. It feels like it's written, doesn't it? It feels like it's written. The
No,
referee's been there once, and it was a 0-0 draw for Orange
I've only
County.
been there once, and Rising won the Western Conference Championship. So should I just go? Let's.
I've been there once, and I saw him win the Pacific Division over there. So
There you go. So that's something else to
I
give.
don't
We'll see.
know. I'm still going with 0-0. I feel as though look, because I mean Harry in here saying Rising 3 OC 0, but like just remember that only about a month ago they played out to a 2-2 draw here in Phoenix. So yeah.
But Rising's changed. That it's just the offense. Like they just need
Really?
one.
The defense has changed. The attack
Yeah.
hasn't.
Yeah.
The attack's gotten worse, if anything. They're not scoring.
You're not. You don't believe.
They scored in 1 game out of 5.
You're not a JJ Williams believer. Is that what you're telling
It's
me?
not that I don't believe in JJ Williams. The whole setup isn't working.
Yeah, we'll see. It's Olowski against Williams. We'll see who comes out on top tomorrow. All right, y'all. Let's take a quick break and talk about our friends at OGs. So, if you guys are looking to get some free stuff, that's right. Everybody loves free stuff. You guys can actually enter a sweepstakes that they got going on called Flavoring Life. So, the Flavoring Life sweepstakes going on right now. We got Derek there. Look at that big old smile, Derek. I think did you guys take that at Maya? It looks like Maya. Anyway. One winner will receive 3 bags of OGs, including orange creamsicle and tropical flavors, an OGs hat, a PHNX shirt of your choice, and the PHNX annual membership. And you can sign up for the sweepstakes at gophnx.com or click the link in our show notes. And you can also check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. And you can also find their products at your local dispensary. And just remember, you must be 21 years or older to purchase. But yeah. Yeah, I mean that membership, man, that's pretty good itself, But the fact that you're getting a hat, some bags, the PHNX shirt of your choice, got this one, but you guys can get the Rising one too. It's a great stuff. Thank you to OGs for sponsoring. All right, Owen, let's take a look around the USL. We had some games yesterday. Were you able to catch any of them?
I was not able to catch them, but just looking through these, let me talk through them quickly. San Diego, they were pretty dominant over Monterey Bay. If you looked at the XG, but the problem was they just couldn't finish. In the end, it took a spot kick was the difference in the second half, and that was the only difference, 1-0. For San Diego, you'd have thought they'd want to build on that a little bit more, bolster the goal difference maybe a little bit more. Of course, goal difference isn't that important, but I don't know. It's
Well, just because we have Harry here on the chat, San Antonio took that 2-1 victory. That was a pretty close game. Loudon actually evened it out, and then San Antonio had to come back and get the 3 points at home. So I was surprised. And then Tulsa, we got Tulsa over Miami as well. So some good games yesterday. No draws, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken as well, didn't Loudon have a goal disallowed at the end of that game?
Is that what happened? I didn't catch those highlights.
So very, very tight one. Very, very tight one.
Harry
and look, I told you, did I not tell you it on Tuesday? Tulsa. I told you Tulsa. They'd have a good shot down in Miami.
And better.
They come out there.
Yeah, San Antonio, I don't know. I'm still not sold on them. Sorry, Harry. We'll see. We'll see what happens with them in the playoffs. But yeah, the San Diego, Monterey Bay. I think you could kind of see the difference between the two sides. I know Monterey's been playing a lot better lately, but I feel like San Diego is actually a pretty good team as well. So,
Well, it's the difference between a team that's playing better to try and scrape into the playoffs and a team that's playing better to try and scrape into first place for the conference. Yeah,
true.
Especially down in San Diego, that's a tough one. Let's look at those. There's a couple of more games as well tomorrow, not just Rising, of course.
Yeah, we got the Baby Bulls hosting Charleston, and then we got Colorado Switchbacks. They're going to be hosting El Paso. That's going to be a really good game.
That's a big game. That's a big game.
Screen, yeah, it's going to be a good one to watch.
I feel as though if you're a Rising fan watching that game, you have to be pulling for Switchbacks because you've got two teams there that are struggling. They are really struggling for form, but Switchbacks aren't in play for Phoenix Rising. El Paso are as a team that Rising can catch. You have to hope that Colorado Springs keep pouring that misery on El Paso with the struggles that they've had lately. They can get the result there because if El Paso start to wake up rather than Colorado Springs, that's bad. That's really not good news for Phoenix because you need El Paso to continue dropping points so that you can help catch them up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, it's going to be interesting because both of those sides, as I said, are in really bad form at the moment. Well, it could end a draw, I suppose. It could end a draw.
I mean, they could draw, yeah. But that's the thing, too, exactly. And I agree with your point that, if El Paso continues to drop points, I would be less worried about this break that's coming up for Rising than if they win. Because now Rising's going to head over there to El Paso. They're going to have that 2-week layoff. And, if sometimes those can kill you, you take those weeks off. You're not in that state of playing the game every week. So, El Paso, we'll see what happens with El Paso. I'm more concerned about what's going on with Locomotive than I am with Colorado. So exactly to your point, because they're just right there with Rising. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
More stuff happening on Saturday as well, of course, the main thrust of the games. Some big ones in there. Pittsburgh, Memphis, Big Eastern Conference game.
Is that an Eastern Conference championship preview?
It's possible. Entirely possible. Of course, those wouldn't be the favorites, are they? Because you'd say Louisville have got to be up there as a favorite. Tampa, especially on the form that those kind of teams are on. If I'm not mistaken, Louisville have only dropped points in one game in their last 5, and that was against Rising. And Tampa haven't dropped points in their last 5 games. So those two teams also are meeting in Louisville. So that's a potential. Pittsburgh, Memphis. There's some big Eastern Conference games this week. So
yeah,
those could well be really exciting.
That should be fun as well. Yeah, that's one of the ones about my.
San Diego traveling away to face Legion as well. That's a tough Eastern Conference opponent. They'll give them a test. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Vegas Lights are traveling away to San Antonio. Now, for Rising's playoff hopes here, you'd have to say that Harry's boys should get the result in that.
Come on, Harry. Help us out, Harry.
Yeah, because Vegas need to drop points. There's a real risk if Vegas win that game, which be a nightmare for Rising's chances because they're pulling then to either maintaining a 4-point lead or possibly pulling further ahead if Rising drop points.
Yeah,
with the tiebreaker as well, guaranteed. Then it's not good, especially if El Paso will also pick up points. I mean, there's a possibility, right, that Rising could be 7 points out of the playoffs still. This weekend, if results go against them.
Yeah. No, if that happens, it's going to be really, really, really tough. So, we got to see what happens. That's pretty much it. I mean, I have Monterey Bay and Sacramento as well. I think that one could be interesting, Northern California. But we'll see.
Indeed. And there's another game on Sunday as well. New Mexico have been struggling lately. They're traveling away to Los Dos. LA Galaxy 2 for me here could pull off a result in that game. Although I'll say that New Mexico have been good on the road. It's interesting. When you actually break things down, New Mexico have been very, very mediocre at home. And yet for some reason, they're winning games on the road. Which doesn't bode well for the playoffs if you're doing well in the standings, because if you're going to be stuck at home then for games.
Yeah. Playing on the road, just switch for Rising.
But I don't know. I feel as though there's a chance for Galaxy to take some points there. Again, that's another team that's right in that mix with PHNX Rising. And it's concerning. You don't want to see those teams gaining points because you can't afford right now to... Look, you can barely afford to be only keeping pace with them. You can't afford to lose any ground.
Yeah, Tyler has a really good point here that New Mexico plays better on the road because they're not in a baseball stadium. So
it's a good point. It's a good point. But then if you play on that utter bad excuse, let's put it that way, for a football pitch.
Let it out, Owen.
If you play on that poor excuse for a football pitch and you know that that's your home pitch, don't you build a team that plays in that kind of conditions?
Yeah.
You won't build a footballing team in there, would you? Because what are you going to do? Keep kicking it round and let it bobble all over the place?
On the mound and just go out of bounds or something.
Also, shout out to Michael here with it. Of course, New Mexico is struggling. It's the second half of the season.
Yeah, just to wrap up here, Owen, on this talk about the other teams, is that this is exactly the situation that I feared and I did not want Rising to be in. Because now they're having to look at what other teams are doing in order for them to be able to say, okay, well, maybe we can drop a point here. Maybe, if we lose here, we won't be in that bad a situation. No, like this was the situation that because Rising has not been able to pull through for the entirety of the season, now you're having to depend on other teams. If you get Las Vegas, if you get Los Dos winning, it's rough, man. It makes it really tough for Rising to come back. And so if those guys, they get the results this weekend, it's not going to look good. And I feel like at that point it might be time to kind of, curtain call it and look forward towards next season. So we'll see what happens. Rising need that victory. And I know we say it all the time, but they especially need it now. So
yeah. And again, just to reiterate, this is a mess of Rising's own creation.
Yeah. You see Duel in the chat here. He's saying it's been that way for 6 weeks. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. We've been saying must win for months now.
I don't even change.
It's getting tiring of just being like every Thursday. It's like, so what do you think about this game? I think it's a must win.
You know what, Owen? This should do something different and win. So yeah. Let's take a look at our friends at DraftKings. So right now we only have, from what I'm seeing on the app, tell me if I'm wrong, Owen. I only have odds for the Baby Bulls game. So they have Baby Bulls at plus 175, plus 265 for a draw, and Charleston Battery at plus 115. So if you're looking to gamble on those, put in your money in these ones, and then hopefully they have the rest of the games by tomorrow. But
I'd expect they pop up. But what would you take out of those three options?
Honestly, I go for a draw. I don't really trust. Maybe Charleston. I know the Bulls are at home, but
but Charleston aren't very good either. That's the thing. This is truly a meeting of two very poor teams. I mean, you look at the kit that Charleston came up with, that white kit they came up with, and it genuinely is accurate for their season because it's what the league has done all over them. I don't know. I'd be tempted to go with a draw here. I'd be very tempted to go with a draw.
Plus 265. You can't go wrong with that.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. If we get the odds for Risings, we'll put it on our Twitter account again, PHNX__Rising. So that way you guys can make some money, You guys can help us out, drop some super chats, buy some gear. It does really help us out. So if you guys make money, then I feel like we make money. So, all right, y'all. Speaking of DraftKings, if you guys haven't downloaded the app yet, make sure to download it right away, the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And you can use promo code PHNX. And when you bet, when you make your first deposit, you can actually get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. And again, that's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Make sure to check out our show notes for more details. All right, DraftKings. Owen, Soccer Wars Part 2.
Oh God, here we go.
I wouldn't call it Part 2. What have you ever watched the Rambo films? where it's
No,
like
it's Soccer Wars 5. Next Pro Strikes Back.
I was gonna say like Rambo First Blood Part 2. Like it's just weird. Anyway,
we're at some stage of the Soccer Wars. No one really knows. No one remembers when it began. All we remember is that for as long as we remember, the Soccer Wars have been ongoing.
there
There was some, as we mentioned on the show on Tuesday, of course, right as we came on live. So all of a sudden they started talking about Orange County in the Irvine Council meeting. We've managed to actually go back now and listen to everything that was said in there. There were some very interesting comments actually that came out of the city manager talking about this situation. So let's go ahead and listen to what Oliver Chi, the Irvine city manager, had to say on Tuesday.
And frankly, we would have preferred at the staff level to have the conversation with the city council this evening. However, we were informed that the USL and MLS are currently engaged in some kind of litigation, and OC Soccer Club sent the LA Galaxy a strongly worded legal letter which preceded and precipitated our request at the staff level to withdraw the item until that matter has been resolved. There are issues that are occurring behind the scenes that I think do warrant some additional review. We'll continue to have an open, transparent dialogue with the council and community moving forward on the best way to utilize the stadium. That conversation will happen in the next couple of weeks after we've reviewed and really vetted some of the legal issues that have been brought to our attention. Again, not with the city, but between two private parties, two soccer leagues that appear to be at odds.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
we've hit the legal phase.
Yeah, props to you for sitting in that council meeting and getting us that video. But and you can explain it to me if I'm getting this wrong. So from what he's saying, LA Galaxy and Orange County have already been talking about this even before that letter came out on Friday. They had already had.
No, well. Here's the thing. He has claimed that Orange County were aware of what was being spoken about.
Okay.
Orange County is saying the opposite. Multiple people who are present in the meeting telling me that the look on the faces of the Orange County leadership in that meeting, as that came out of the city manager's mouth, that they'd been kept informed of what was going on, was some variety of shock.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's hard to tell. There's allegations, of course. Now we've reached the legal phase of all of this, which is where, it's typical US soccer, right? Yeah. We could deal with things on the pitch, or we could just go in a courtroom, because why not? Why not? Who wants stability? Stability's overrated.
Yeah, not good at all. I do want to, give props to everybody on Twitter and social media that's been putting that pressure. And for everybody that showed up to the council meeting, I know what are they, like 6 hours long, 4 or 5 hours long?
It took a while.
Yeah.
They actually were in closed session for 2 hours at the beginning of the meeting, just had everybody kind of waiting around.
Yeah.
It took them about an hour longer than the time they'd initially promised they were going to be back for. So,
yeah, there was Dan Rustine. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. He was on Football Americas yesterday. He's, I believe, the president of business relations for Orange County. He was talking with Hercules Gomez on ESPN Plus and Sebastian Salazar. So he was talking about the situation and what's going on. The main point that I got from it was that he does not want to exclude anybody from using the pitch, but they do not want to be kicked out. That's the main thing he said. If there's some transparency with that and we can all get what we want, he's willing to work with them. But the way that they went about it was the fact that really upset Orange County. So I don't know. I think that the ball is on Galaxy's side right now, and I think it's kind of up to them to kind of just be the better person and
The problem they've got is that the indications from the city of Irvine seem to be that they don't want to just add, that they're actually trying to get more community days in there. More days when the stadium's open to the community. I'm not sure who wants the stadium. It's, let's be clear, a stadium built for professional football. I'm not sure how many community events can really happen there with it actually having that much value.
You had like over 100 days, something like that.
Yeah, do you really need that? What do they do?
A lot of raves. I don't know. What do you do in Orange County?
They're raving on the pitch. That explains why they had to paint it green that one year. But
yeah, we'll see.
It's
And
just
that's the thing that irks
a
me. It's just like people just want to see a team there. It's you know what. It's tough. You know, they've already built a community there. They have the academy going on as well. They've been doing good as far as selling players. They obviously won the championship last year. So it's just, you know, them and I forget the name of the other team that plays there. They played against Galaxy actually at that stadium. The
Cal United Strikers.
Cal United Strikers. So there's already a fan base there. There's already two teams. Like, why add to this? And so it's just not. I don't think it's a good situation at all. And I hope it gets resolved without having to go further.
The thing that I think you mentioned, obviously, the indication seemed to be from Orange County. They were willing to accept that Galaxy might play this as long as it doesn't interfere with Orange County playing there. But the problem you've got now is I feel as though enough goodwill has been shattered that while that might be the public image, I'm not so sure how people feel privately.
Imagine that pitch having 3 teams on it at once.
Not great.
That's not sustainable. You see Rising's pitch after a game. It's not gonna look good.
Ideal. Not ideal.
All right, for sure. Yeah, let us know in the comments how you're feeling about this. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, we'll definitely keep you updated on what's going on because this does impact the league as a whole, and you know, Rising being part of the league. Never know, might happen to us. So we'll see.
Well, we do know there've been stadium questions.
A lot of them, especially on Twitter. But yeah, Owen, anything else you want to talk about today? That's all I had.
It's about all I've got here as well. Just
watched the MLS All-Star game yesterday. Wasn't it fun?
Oh, I did not know. I do not have any interest in a glorified friendly. No.
Hey, next year you have no more MLS All-Star games. That's the good news for you. Probably the bad news though is that the Leagues Cup is going to be taking place next year. So
so they're getting rid of the All-Star game next year.
Well, they can't do it when they're having a mid-season long, month-long tournament. So we'll see. I don't know how that's gonna work. It's like Liga MX against MLS teams. Like, I feel like it's just gonna be a whole bunch of stuff. So
it feels like a waste of time.
Hey, they're building up to 2026, man. It's all about the money. You know, you want these things to stop, then don't go to the game.
This is the point. It's not about building up to 2026. It's about lining the wallets until 2026.
Yes.
And then you can line them some more. But none of that money's going into growing the game. It's lining people's wallets.
At least not on the Mexican side, yes. That's why they're here. You know, if you want to be frank about this, I'll say it on the show. I'll say it live. You have a team like Puebla, right, who announced that they're going to play in New York City, which is one of the cities in the U.S. that has one of the biggest Pueblano, people that have immigrated there. That's the reason they picked New York. They're looking to get that money, and they're looking to take it back to Mexico. So that's all it is, at least on the Mexican side. So growing the game and all this stuff, it is what it is. But yeah, it's peculiar. We'll leave it at that.
It's the exact same reason they have all the utterly pointless friendlies here, isn't it? The Mexican national team. And I'm talking about the ones outside of the FIFA windows now. Yeah. The ones that are genuinely just like, yeah, we're going to bring out a bunch of people, of which maybe 2 or 3 will actually play when we go off and play real games. But yeah, come watch them.
Gotta make the money.
I mean, and we'll charge you $80 for the privilege, I'm sure.
Hey, $20 beers, and you throw them in the air. Anyway, I don't want to keep talking about that. But yeah, it's see, Owen will get me going about this stuff. All right, y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow for the live post-game show, hopefully with good news regarding Rising. They need that.
Well, we'll have news. Not sure how good it'll be, but we'll have news.
Yeah, hopefully good news. And we hope to see you there. Yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Always appreciate it. Shout out to Michael. We got Tyler here. Michael as well, Reese over here. Who else did I see? Harry, as always. I saw Bonnie a little bit earlier. I don't think she's in the chat anymore. Scott, as always, thank you for joining us. You guys make the show fun, being active in the chat. Always appreciate that. So before we wrap up, if you guys haven't yet, make sure to follow us on our Twitter account, PHNX__rising. We're almost to 650. We're at 642, 650. I'll give this bad boy out, and then hopefully we can do more giveaways in the future. So
a rumor has it that if we hit 700, Next Pro won't be able to come in and steal our channel.
No, they're taking everything. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Reese is asking for some help with this math homework. Also, they wanted to see your shirt. What are you wearing? What?
Oh, it's just a whale shirt. It's
nice.
I mean, it's nothing especially like
I was like, it looks too burgundy to be a rising one. So
yeah.
Oh, there you go. Bonnie's here. Appreciate you, Bonnie, for tuning in as always. All right, y'all. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Until then, be well, stay safe, and see you later.